Oh yeah, I chopped it off. Hi guys, I'm Amy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a book haul for all of you. These are books that I've collected over the past couple months or so. I haven't been buying as many books as I was last year, but I'm okay with that. Although I'm still buying books because I still frequent the library and bookstores and things, and usually that's where you end up purchasing books. But if you would like to see the books that I've picked up, then go ahead and keep on watching. The first book that I have for you is a middle grade pick, and that is The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes by Soman Chainani. This is book 2 of his series by, I think it's just called, what is the series called? Do I know? I think it's just The School for Good and Evil. I should know these things, but I don't. Anyway, it was at my used bookstore, and I haven't read the first one yet, but I'm hoping to very soon, and figured I might as well pick up the second one for if I want to continue, you know, immediately. The next book I found at the super cheap sale section of my local library, which is like my crutch. I can't not use it. And that is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. This is a very popular book. It is about a couple who is in Alaska on a frontier, or excuse me, a homestead, and they are having trouble conceiving a child and thus growing apart. And one night on a whim, they end up building a snow child. I think it's the first snow, but I'm not sure, and that's probably completely unimportant. But, and then the next morning, a little girl shows up outside their house with a pet fox, and I've heard amazing things about it, and I just thought I'd give it a shot, especially since it's currently freezing outside at home here in the Pacific Northwest. No snow for me, but cold nonetheless. This next book I bought because there have been so many booktubers who I really trust their opinions that have raved about this book, and that is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto, Claire from Claire Reads Books, Matthew from Matthew Sharapa, and Catherine from Literary Prince have all really enjoyed this book, and I have not read any of Banana Yoshimoto yet, and I think it's time, and it was a used book, and you know, I'm a sucker. I'm just a sucker. That's the point of every haul that I make, is how much I can't say no to a good deal, especially on a book that so many people love. The next book that I purchased from the library is All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. I've never heard of this book before, but the premise of this book just so intrigued me. It's about two people, a male and a female, who are living in a world in which witches and science are both a part of the world, but they're kind of going head to head, potentially going to cause like this major war and like rift in this society. And the two major prospects from each camp basically fall in love, and it's about their story and how they handle it. All of that sounds fascinating, especially the science witches part together. I have never read a book that had that premise, and it intrigued me. So, picked it up. Another library pick is Hotel du Lac by Anita Bruckner. In 1995, I believe this won the Booker, and this is a story about a woman who writes romance novels under a pseudonym, and when her life becomes a little bit too much like one of her romance novels, she heads to a hotel in Switzerland, yes, and there her story unfolds, and it's about love, and it just sounds like a very slow-moving story, which you all know that I love very much, and it's also just a little baby guy, so I figured I would give this one a shot as well. The next book that I found is Her Body and Other Parties, a short story collection by Carmen Maria Machado. This book has been widely acclaimed on BookTube, although I have heard some people haven't loved it as much as others, and I believe this is just a collection of stories that are largely about gender and women and what that means. I could be totally off the mark here, but I've just heard really good things, and I've really come to love short story collections, and there is one story in here about a woman who has a green ribbon around her neck that I've heard good things about and really intrigued me. So when I found it as I was checking out at my local used bookstore and was like, oh my gosh, it's used, and I just threw it on there like it wasn't another $8. But you know, it happens, right? Tell me it happens to you guys too. Tell me I'm not the only one, please. I also found Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This book has been very well received by a lot of people, and by people who also are not fans of John Green. Okay, the way I said that makes it sound like I'm not a fan of him. I can't say if I am or I'm not, because I've never read him before and largely don't have a desire to read his other books, but because this book is about a girl with anxiety and dealing with social anxiety, which is something I can relate to more than a little bit, I thought I'd give it a shot, especially since Jess from, I think it's Jess Reads Books, I'll link her channel down below, really enjoyed this book, and also is a person who struggles with anxiety and felt that the representation was done very well, and so I thought that it would be a good thing to read. Also, it's YA, which I don't read a ton of, but like to sprinkle in here and there, and for half off, I bought it. This next book has a little bit of a story to it in the sense that I heard Olive from a Book Olive talk about this book. I believe it was in her favorite nonfiction books from Nonfiction November of 2017, and she just raved about this book so much. And I can't tell you how many times I've carried this book around a used bookstore to put it back for whatever reason, and I finally just bit the bullet and bought it because it intrigues me so much. And that is H is for Hawk by Helen MacDonald, and this is a memoir, I believe, about Helen's experience after she lost her father, and she ended up raising some goshawks, who are very notoriously difficult to train and work with. And I love any story that has something to do with animals, especially nonfiction, and the grief concept is really intriguing to me as well. So I cannot wait to read this. I've been loving nonfiction so much lately, and I really love Olive's recommendations. The few books I've read that she's recommended, I've always enjoyed, and so I'm like so stoked to pick this one up. This is probably the one I'm most excited to pick up from this haul. And don't be too shocked, you guys, because I also picked up another YA book. I don't know what got into me when I was at the used bookstore, but that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I think it was because this book was half off, and I've just heard so many people talk about this book. I wasn't originally anticipating reading this book because it just was not the typical book that I read, but I figured it would be good for me to kind of dip my toes in a little bit into the discussion of Black Lives Matter and the both fiction and nonfiction that are now being published and written about that topic. And I thought it would be really interesting to see it from a teenager's point of view in a way that she's experiencing this firsthand. And I've literally never heard someone say a bad thing about this book. I also think that it'll be a quick read despite it being a bit of a lengthy book, but it being YA, I think I'll get through it very quick, but I don't think it'll be an easy read, and I'm really curious to see what I think about this one. The last book that I have for you is another one that I'm so excited about, and I found at my local library for only $1. It was like it was meant to be. You know how those books just come to you and you're like, the universe knew that I needed this book. And that is Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir by Jenny Lawson. As many of you probably know, I absolutely adored Furiously Happy, which is her second book that she published, I believe, last year. I think it came out in 2017, but this was her first book, and this one's more about her life and her growing up with a very eccentric father and not ever feeling like she truly fit in. And I am so excited to read this. I need to take all the library stuff off of it so I don't like blind you all because of the giant window reflecting light and such. But I'm super stoked to read this. And also she talks about this taxidermied mouse who is her personal taxidermied mouse that she talks about it in Furiously Happy and how she took it to some book publishing parties and things that involve Furiously Happy and how she freaked people out about it. So I'm excited to read it, and I think I will maybe even get a little bit more out of it because I have read Furiously Happy first, even though this book came first. I don't know. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you've read both of them and what you think of them. But so excited to get to this. There you have it, guys. There is a very chatty, kind of all over the place book haul. I would apologize, but you know, on my channel, you just never know what you're gonna get. So it's always an adventure. But thank you so much for watching, you guys. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you're interested in reading any of these books, or if maybe you'd want to read one of these books with me. I'm always up for a buddy read. I haven't done one in a while, and I'm kind of missing it a little bit. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. But if you liked this video, please like it. And if you loved it, please subscribe, and we'll see you in my next video. Happy reading. A book that's less for Book 2, The World All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jean Anders. This Jane, that says Jane. It's not Jean, it's Jane. This is becoming a problem. That have been out for a while. What? That doesn't make sense either. That didn't make any sense whatsoever. Oh gosh.